In this video, I'm going to be referencing a lot of video I did just prior. So if you're a little confused, I will link it in the description and I will put it at the end of this video as well. This is my second faith-based video and I got quite an overwhelming response to do more. I was not expecting that, and so I am. The title of this video is, what am I going to name this? And the reason why I'm including those in the title is not to exploit her death. My sister died 3 months ago, but it is to perhaps attract those that are interested in faith planning and those that have lost someone close to them. Sometimes when people lose someone, they question, okay, first of all, if you're not a Christian, just know that I am, and I respect your beliefs just like I hope that you respect mine. I'm a Christian, so if you don't want to hear what I have to say about what I think about death because it is relative to what the Bible says, then just respectfully click away and we can all carry on with our lives. But I'm going to be referencing the Bible a lot. When people lose someone, they either, I feel like, run toward God or away from Him. That is one thing that can shake your faith. And until then, I was 33, I still am 33, it was only 3 months ago. I'd never experienced grief. You've known people that have, and you're like, gosh, that's so sad. And you think about it now and again, and you're like, man, I can't believe that happened, right? But I was lucky enough to go all the way until I was the age of 33 before I experienced any sort of tragedy. I looked to Christianity about 10 years ago, a little more than that, but I never really explored it. I have, but certain experiences in churches back then had me run away from God. So if your reaction when you lose someone is to run away from religion or away from God or away from the Bible, I do not judge you at all, because for events far less traumatic, I ran from God 10 years ago, and I had sort of had him in the back of my mind and gone back and forth and prayed now and again, but I was never as actively on fire for Christ as I am right now and as I was just before the experience in the church that I was attending. So I get running away. I don't think that that's wrong for you to do at all. I cannot judge you at all. If you've lost someone, I don't know what you've experienced as far as grief because it is so personal. I kind of was offended when a lot of people were like, I know exactly how you feel. And I'm just like, but you don't though. Just like I don't know exactly how you feel. We both lost a different person. No one lost an Ashley. They lost somebody else. So I feel like that's just a personal boundary that I feel like I was offended, but instead of messaging back how offended I was, because that's just what you do on the internet nowadays, I just let it go, because I know that their intention wasn't to make me upset. My sister was driving home from work. If you want to know the whole story about how I found out, whatever, it's on my Instagram. It's like 4 posts ago. I haven't really posted on Instagram very much. And it's a big story. To release my feelings, I talk it out or I write it out, and I just had to write it all down, and I did, and I haven't read it since, and I don't want to go back to that. It was a very raw moment. So if you're curious, that's on my Instagram. Basically, my sister was driving home from work in these empty country roads, and hardly anybody ever travels these roads. She had her seatbelt on and everything and was following the law of the land when she crossed the highway, and a semi-truck ran the stop sign, or a Mack truck, depending on where you're from. It's called something different. He was carrying a full load, and he ran into her driver's side door. So the state troopers had come and told us, and everybody was in my living room, but we still didn't really know the details because it was under investigation. Anytime somebody dies like that, they investigate it. So I went to the internet and I tried to Google what happened, because for some reason I really just needed to know. We didn't know exactly how she was killed or what happened. So I stumbled upon a Twitter account of this state trooper who had tweeted about it, and he had tweeted about it just to warn people that follow him to stay away from this certain area because they needed to clean up and whatever. So I messaged this state trooper. I DM'd him. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you're still on duty or what, but I left him this lengthy message, and I was like, you may think that I'm strange or whatever, but I'm kind of seeking closure because I'm confused, like the emotions you feel. This is only a couple hours after I found out, so I'm just kind of going crazy. Anyway, I messaged him and I said, is there somebody that can call us back at all? So about 7 o'clock in the morning, the detective in charge of the investigation called back, and she said, she explained everything that happened and some details. And she said that they took the semi-truck driver, who was completely distraught, and he was frozen, just in shock. And he did run a stop sign on the highway, but I don't think his intention was to kill anyone, So I feel like when I ran toward the world, people on my comments and messages were like, you should sue the semi-truck driver, you should put him in jail for vehicular manslaughter, you should sue the company that he was driving for, like all these things. And it would just fill me with, or it would attempt to fill me with anger and blame and hate toward this man whose negligence killed my sister. But I didn't find any peace in that at all. So when I looked toward the world, I was left feeling so upset. But when I looked toward God, I felt peace and I felt better. And I'm not saying that I'm turning to God just to feel better about things, but the evidence that I did feel better shows me that God is there guiding me. That's why I chose to run to God and not to the world or away from God, because I didn't find any peace when I ran toward the world. I was just filled with anger and resentment, and something I probably would have held on to till this day if I had kept going that way. So I ran super hard toward God. In this video, I'm going to refer to the Bible as truth. That is because I believe the Bible as truth with my entire heart. Even historians that are not religiously based reference the Bible because of the facts in the Bible. And, people discredit other things because they think it just sounds like nonsense. But just know that if you are going to be annoyed by me referring to the Bible constantly, maybe this isn't the type of video you should watch from me, because while I do pray, I don't feel like I hear anything from God, or maybe I have, but I just didn't know it was him. You know how people say that God spoke to them? I feel like God speaks to me through his word, and not until I started reading his word did I feel like I was communicating with him, like, oh, that's what he's trying to tell me. Then I had some questions about how I got into reading 1 Peter. And I answered Laura, my friend, in the comments, but for those of you that didn't know, I don't think there is a wrong place to start reading the Bible. I started reading 1 Peter because my friend and I were talking about the Bible, and I was like, just in general conversation, my sentence started out, I was like, pretend you're reading in 1 Peter. And then, I don't know why I said 1 Peter, but several weeks after that, I would wake up, my baby's crying at 3 in the morning, and I'm awake, and then for some reason, I would think, 1 Peter. And it took me a while. I was a little heavy. I was a little thick-skulled, but I was like, oh, why do I keep thinking about 1 Peter? So then I was like, I'm going to read in 1 Peter. And that's how I stumbled upon 1 Peter. So maybe that is God talking to me in a way, but I don't really know why I started reading in 1 Peter, but that's the only thing that how I can answer that. What I got from 1 Peter, and I don't know what I'm going to read next. I will pray and ask God, and if he doesn't tell me where to go next, I'll probably just go right into 2 Peter or something. The lessons that I've learned from 1 Peter, and I believe that these things, it's amazing that I started reading in 1 Peter because one thing that I felt when my sister died was I didn't necessarily question God, but I did wonder about the timing because she had just gotten married and I just announced to her that I was pregnant and we're gonna have her first niece. She doesn't have any nieces. And I was just like, man, there's never a good time to die, but I was just kind of like, why now? She was about a year older than me, and we were very close. She's in some of my love for food. We did these videos a couple summers ago, food box videos. Anyway, she's my only sister. She was my only sister. So in my grief, I felt guilty because I would be like, I should trust God. So why am I so sad? And of course you're allowed to be sad when you lose someone, but I was just overcome with just a conflict in my mind because my faith wasn't shaken, but I certainly was like just so deeply saddened. And instead of being able to focus on God's promises, all I could focus on was deep sorrow. So the first thing I picked up in 1 Peter was, in this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold, that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So when I read that, I was like, wow, it's acknowledging that I have been grieved by various trials. And though I greatly rejoice in salvation through Christ, I'm still really sad. And it says also that my faith is being tested by fire. So I feel like moments like this in life, when you tragically lose someone, that's definitely your faith being tested by fire. And it talks about that is okay. That's okay, because in life you're going to be tested by fire. But just know that in the end, eternity is what matters, and God knows your heart and how you feel, and as angry and sad as you are right now, your faith in your salvation through Jesus Christ is what matters, and it's there in the back of your mind. So go ahead and feel what you need to feel, but God is there, and He'll be here when you're ready to turn back to Him after such a deep sorrow. See what I'm saying? That's what I picked up from verse 6 and 7. And that's why I was just like, oh wow. Out of all the books in the Bible, I read this one and these verses about feeling grief and the conflict that I had with all of that. I just felt like God really spoke to me through these verses. That's just sort of the general. I wrote down a whole bunch of what I gathered from that, but that's just the general sense of what I gathered from verses 6 and 7. So I had only read 1 Peter chapter 1 when I had made that video, and then after I made the video, I read chapter 2. And in that video, my first faith video, I was talking about how I feel weird talking about faith-based things because I wasn't knowledgeable, and there was a lot of encouraging comments about how I didn't need to be all-knowing in the church. And one of my friends said something that I truly resonated with me. She said, God has a tendency to recruit from the pit, not the pedestal. And I was just like, I really like that. That made me feel a lot more comfortable. So then I started reading in chapter 2 of Peter after I'd made that video. And the very first thing in chapter 2 says, therefore, laying aside all malice, all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and all evil speaking, as newborn babes desire the pure milk of the word, that you may grow thereby, if indeed you have tasted that the Lord is gracious. So basically, be like a newborn baby who needs the milk of the word. Like, there's nothing more new than a newborn baby, right? And their need for milk would be my need, I guess not religiously, but how I'm seeking God. I'm like a newborn that needs milk, and my milk is the word. You see what I'm saying? So right after I made that video, then I stumbled upon chapter 2 and those first 3 verses, and I was just like, wow, He's talking to me again. And I just felt I just felt amazed by how much I feel like God is speaking to me. And that's what I mean by I believe He speaks to me through His word. And that's why I really encourage you to really not go by what you can learn lessons in church, obviously, and from what other people are saying. But if you really want to feel like, wow, I really believe that, you need to pray and then read the Bible yourself, because God will reveal, you're not living my life. I don't know your life. And so what I'm going through and what I'm learning here may not pertain to you at all. But if you really want to be wowed, I feel like God will really talk to you if you read and pray yourself with your Bible. So then, in reference to my first video, I was like, why does this planner stink? And I was referring to this planner here. And then this girl, she didn't make me feel dumb or anything. She was just so tactful and so sweet in the way that she mentioned that this is a regular daily planner, but it's geared toward, it's like faith-based or faith-themed. So I was under the impression that this was for Bible study, but it's actually just a regular planner, everyday planner for someone who is a Christian. So there's my calendar layout I could use for the holidays and important events like birthdays, just a general sense of life. And on Monday I have an appointment with my nails, or Tuesday I've got, a haircut. But then I've also got a space to be grateful for. So it's a regular planner for people, and the dashboard is more faith-based than it is, planner-based. So then I felt really silly for hating this planner so much, because it didn't even dawn on me that this was probably just a regular everyday planner with a faith theme. So I take back everything bad I said about it. I feel so silly for hating it so much, but I do already have a regular planner, so I don't know what I'm going to use this for. And I did start to sticker it up, and I've studied 1st and 2nd Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1 and 2, and today I'm going to do chapter 3. But I don't know that I'm going to continue to use this at all anymore. I think that maybe I will save it because it isn't dated, it's just blank, so you can write down the number of what day it is. So I can hold on to this until next year and use it then, so that I don't waste it trying to turn it into a faith journal. And I had a really hard time fitting all of my thoughts. I'd run out of space, so writing in here really isn't going to work, I don't think. And with the realization that it is just an everyday planner, that's probably what I'll use it for in the future, and I'll just hold on to it. I will hoard it, and then I think that I will take my studies to a notebook, as someone suggested, maybe like a bullet style notebook, and write down what I gather from each chapter in a notebook. This is the Bible journal that my friend sent me, and there's space on either side to write down things as you read, which I do utilize in that sense. And I've seen Bible journaling become very trendy, where people will do art across the words, and to me that is very offensive, but I don't say anything because, to each their own. I feel like the focus for Bible study isn't to doodle, it is to read the word. So I will decorate, because decorating is fun and it makes my Bible journaling experience a creative outlet, but really the substance is in God's word and what I'm learning from that, and that is my focus. So you won't see me scribbling all over the Bible. That's why I really like this, because I can write down the column, highlight some words, and study that way. And I won't feel bad about, people put washi tape all across the words, and they put watercolors and they smear the words and you can barely read it. And I'm just like, that isn't, that may be your thing, but it certainly isn't mine. I don't necessarily want the words to be the medium in which I'm drawing on. I want them to be what I'm drawing from. What did I just say? I had an idea to do a faith journal based off of the 1 line a day journals. I don't know if you have seen those, but it gives you space to write a couple lines every single day, and for 5 years. So if you skip to May 1st, you'll be writing in May 1st, but then you can see what you wrote May 1st in 2017, May 1st in 2016. You know, you can go back and see what happened on May 1st of all of these years. And I think that's kind of the concept I want to carry on when I do my Bible study, because I want to see what I learned from First Peter this time around, and I want to be able to reference it next time around. So I think after I'm done studying in First Peter, in this notebook I'm going to create, I will leave a huge space to then journal about First Peter again in 6 months or whenever I stumble back upon First Peter, just so that I can see what things have changed. And I really like to be able to reference a before and after of where I've come in a year. I've got a couple sketch journals that I might turn into a Bible journal, but I'm not sure how that's gonna go. But I will do that setup and show you that in another video. Okay, so thank you for joining me for my second faith-based video, and I will see you next time.